Hello, everyone. Good morning. I am echoing. Good morning, everyone. I am Melissa Dugas. I'm the founder and CEO of My Coffee Connect. And I am here to introduce you my third speaker. But first, I would like to read something about her. Carly Myers is an expert at helping professionals who feel overworked, overwhelmed, or on the verge of burnout relieve stress so they can find more joy at work, home, and beyond. As the founder of the Stress Less Company, Carly has helped hundreds of professionals across the country take action to reduce stress through coaching. She believes there is no one size fits all when it comes to stress management. Carly, a diplomat of the American Institute of Stress, has had her work most recently featured in media outlets such as Parade, Good Day Philadelphia, Fox 29, the Philadelphia Inquirer, Philly Mag, and Hooli Magazine. Please welcome Carly Myers of the Less Stress Management.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited about being here. You might have guessed that I am local to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That is where I live and work, but I work with people all over the world. What I do really is I work with high achieving CEOs, business owners, and managers who are feeling exhausted and overworked to find that sense of peace and that sense of freedom that they desire. And really, as a result of our work together, they are able to learn how to properly manage their time and their tasks, and most importantly, their energy, so that they can experience more time freedom, more efficiency, and more prosperity. And so I'm super, super excited today, Melissa, for you to have me on and for us to just dig in a little bit about alternative ways to reduce stress.
Awesome. But first of all, tell us why. Share us your story. Why did you do what you do and who inspired you?
Yeah. So I always like to say when people ask me this question, it's like opening a can of worms. But really the reason why I started the Stress Less company is because of an experience I had when I was a kid. When I was about 12 years old, a man was murdered in my home and my mom was shot 3 times. Let's all take a breath in.
Yeah.
Inhale
Oh, God. Mm-hmm.
and exhale. Yeah. So around that time, things weren't working out between my parents. They got separated for their own reasons. And my mom ended up dating again, and she ended up dating a bad apple. And long story short, that bad apple, after they broke up, broke into my childhood home, killed my mom's new boyfriend, and tried to kill her. And my mom was shot literally point blank in the back of her head, through her L5 in her spine, and through her arm. She was not supposed to survive, like 100%. I remember being a kid and hearing the doctors tell all the adults in the room that she had a 3% chance of surviving. And while my mom survived, she actually made basically a full recovery. If you saw her today, all she has is a pair of reading glasses on sometimes and a slight limp. It's wild. But while she made basically a full recovery, I really struggled for a long time. I struggled with the symptoms of PTSD. I struggled with stress, with overwhelm, with night terrors. I mean, you name it, I was probably struggling with it. And, you know, I didn't tell anybody what was going on for the first 5 years of my journey. I didn't tell anybody that I was struggling. I didn't tell anyone that, I was experiencing this mental health hardship, if you will. And when I finally started opening up with people and telling people what was going on, I would say things like, hey, I'm kind of feeling a little stressed, or I'm kind of overwhelmed, or I'm sort of struggling right now. And I would ask people for advice. And it was like clockwork. I would get the same 5 or so responses every single time. It was, hey, Carly, have you tried therapy? Have you tried yoga? Have you tried meditation? Have you tried exercise? Have you tried changing your diet? Have you tried insert mainstream approach here? And the reality is that I was so desperate for change that I had tried all of that. I mean, it was almost like, no shit, Sherlock, pardon my French, but come on, it's basics here. We know this. And while some of that stuff, I want to be honest, did not work at all. And some of that stuff worked a little bit, but nothing ever got me over that hump where I was experiencing things like joy and happiness and peace of mind and contentment and silliness and goofy, all of that, all of those beautiful states of mind that, I used to roll my eyes at. And it took me about 10 years of struggle before I found the thing that worked for me. And at the time, that thing was art. I was sketching out my night terrors, drawing out my emotions. I was really in that creative space. And what's interesting is that slowly but surely, my night terrors started to go away. My stress levels started to go down. I was starting to feel more content, more peace of mind. Now, for everybody that's internally panicking right now, because you think I'm going to, talk about how art saves lives and how art is going to be the thing that helps you manage your stress, don't worry. I know most of us can't draw a stick figure, let alone anything else.
That's me.
Yeah. No, but what I really found was this thing called creative stress reduction. And creative stress reduction is any activity that gets us out of fight, flight, or freeze mode and into a state of play or flow, aka rest and digest. And the importance of that as a foundation is that when we're in fight or flight mode, we tend to make some pretty poor decisions.
Yeah.
That's when we get into emotional eating. That's when we snap at our partners or our family because we are in that mode. We can't get out of it. And so it's so important to get out of fight or flight mode so that we can start thinking clearly, we can start thinking strategically, and we can really move beyond that initial trigger to really pull these stressors out by the roots so that we're able to create the life that we really want to live.
But here's the thing that I always tell you this, right? Like, I'm always jealous about your skin. I think you're practicing what you preach, because is this a secret of having the less stress, of having a good skin? Because it's like your skin is flawless. And I think the less stress management helps you a lot.
That and lots of water. That and lots of water.
Okay, that's good. So, what are the things that does it help when you do stress, if you're mad or something like that? Does it help, like, if you write it down, or you have to let somebody know about how you feel? How do you start? How will you know if you are really experiencing stress? What are the symptoms?
Yeah, so let's start with what the definition of stress is, because quite frankly, there are the therapists, the psychologists, the professionals, they don't seem to agree on a singular definition, and there are hundreds and hundreds out there. So after going through all of those definitions, or let's say hundreds of them at least, I found two that really resonated with me in the work that I'm doing. And so for the context of what we're talking about today, these two definitions, I'm just going to go ahead and share. So the first one is physical, mental, or emotional strain or tension. Physical, mental, or emotional strain or tension. And so that really, when I think about that, I'm thinking about how many of us have actually had, experienced shoulder pain or back pain or tension in our body when we were in that triggered state, or how many of us have lain in bed at night and our wheels are going a million miles a minute because we have so much we want to do, and we were thinking about that conversation we should be having or we'd had earlier, right?
That's
stress.
Me.
Yeah.
That's
yes.
Me. Yes.
So that's one definition, right? And then my personal favorite definition is that it's a condition or feeling experienced when a person perceives that the demands exceed the resources they're able to mobilize. AKA, I can't handle this. I don't have what it takes. And so going into those two perspectives, of what stress is, we can really get a clear idea of what, where it's showing up in our lives. Where do we feel like we don't have the resources, we can't handle it? Maybe we don't have the money, or we don't have the connections, or we don't have the emotional bandwidth to make it through whatever situation we're in. And so that can be really clear. Now, stress has a lot of symptoms, and I love that you asked that question, Melissa, about symptoms, because it's, it shows up in so many ways, it's almost scary. So, we can start with things like social withdrawal, loss of interest at work, loss of motivation, the use of unhealthy coping mechanisms like drinking or emotional eating, and it can even be Netflix binging, right? It can also show up, right, in things like irritability, anxiety, depression, and that's not even getting into the scary stuff that we hear all the time, the cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, strokes. And so I would say those are the after effects of stress. And we know that when we're experiencing some of those things, that stress may be playing a key role in why we're experiencing that. Especially when it comes to exhaustion. That's one of the first few symptoms: exhaustion, losing the sense of empathy or sense of caring. We're getting to the place of burnout, which is a whole nother conversation for another day.
But share us, what are the ways that we can fight for this stress, or what can we do to get rid of this frustrations, and what are the things?
So I would say that we really have to start with the foundation, and the foundation is to get ourselves out of that triggered state and into that rest and digest state. So when I shared about creative stress reduction earlier, it wasn't just, here's another, random tool to add to your tool belt. I really believe that this is the first step that we need to take to do anything in our lives in terms of stress management. So the question then becomes, how do we find the creative stress reduction techniques that work for us as individuals? Because I am not a one size fits all kind of person, and I can't sit here and give you all the answers. I can give you the tools to figure out what works for you. So the first thing that I would recommend that you do if you're listening to this and you want to step out of stress and get out of fight or flight mode is to sit down with a pen and a piece of paper and write down a list of at least 50 to 100 items, activities that you love doing. And most of the time the jaws drop because they're like, 50 to 100, what? But starting there, because that is the foundation. You know yourself better than anybody else. So what is it that you love doing? And anything can go here. So it can be playing with your dog, going on a walk, having that glass of wine. It could be gardening. It can be hanging out with friends. It can even be the hanky panky. It could be anything, as long as you're honest about the fact that you love it. And the key here is not to edit yourself, because as soon as we edit what we think is unhealthy, we get stuck. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be able to get to 50 to 100 because all we're thinking about is, I should not be putting hanky panky on here. Yeah. And we're blocking the flow, right? And so anything goes. Now, once you have that list of at least 50 to 100 items, what you're going to do is you're going to ask yourself 4 really important questions to make sure that you're narrowing down this list of items to things that are accessible, that are healthy for you. So you're going to ask yourself these 4 really important questions. So the first question that you're going to ask is, does this activity have the potential to put myself or someone else in harm's way?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this is actually really important, especially in the times that we live in right now. Yes. So, right, could this activity get myself or someone else sick? And if the answer to that is yes, we cross it off. It's not something we're doing today.
Yeah.
The second question that you're going to ask is, does this activity have the potential to trigger me? So based on our past experiences, based on maybe our trauma, what we've gone through in life, could this trigger me? So a great example of this is I had a client a few years ago who's a survivor of sexual assault. And everyone kept telling her, you got to get a massage. Oh my goodness, it's going to be so good. It's going to help you get so relaxed. And she was pondering it. She was like, everybody says that this is a great experience, that I should try it. But she also knew that physical touch can sometimes make her really uncomfortable. And so rather than having her going in and exploring, does this work or does it not, in terms of, is this going to trigger me? We said, you know what, you can explore that in your own time. This is not your creative stress reduction. Because again, if we go back to the definition, it's any activity that gets us out of fight, flight, or freeze and into a state of rest and digest. And so if you're on edge, this is not an activity that's going to work for you.
Maybe yoga.
Maybe yoga. Yeah. Right? Figuring out what works for you. So the third question that you're going to ask to narrow down your list, and by the way, if it has a potential to trigger you, you're going to cross it off. The third question that you're going to ask is, does this activity fit into my resources? Wow. Does it fit into my financial resources, my time resources, my social resources? Because let's be honest, I think how many times, or I'm going to be honest, I've done hundreds and hundreds of these lists with folks, and almost every single time that fancy vacation is on the list.
It's always
on the list. But then sometimes we go back to our bank accounts, and our bank accounts are telling a completely different story.
Yeah, of course.
And so what happens in that scenario is if we say, okay, well, this is the creative stress reduction that's going to work for me, maybe we put it on our credit card, or maybe we push it off and push it off and push it off until it's 5 years later, 10 years later, 15 years later, and we've never done anything to manage our stress and we're still struggling. Or we put it on the credit card and now we've got all those extra payments that we can't afford. And that's more stress, right? So we're trying to get rid of those negative consequences and only focus on what we have accessible to us right now. The other thing to consider is if you're a parent, do I have the social resources? If I need some alone time, is somebody going to be willing to watch my kids for 3 hours for a weekend, for a week? Right? Yeah. And so being honest about what resources that you have available to you, and what activities you have accessible to you right now. Again, doesn't mean you can't develop those relationships and find those resources for the future, but right now we're focusing on what you have accessible to you in the moment.
Wow. You guys, I hope you are listing them. I'm listing them now, and I forgot I still recorded. So if you this is the best advice that you are going to that you gave us. It really helps us a lot. So tell us more.
So we have
to be healthy, to be sane.
Yeah, so I do want to give one last question that we need to ask in order to narrow down our list. And this is probably the most important question, which is, if I did this activity every single time I was stressed out, would it be healthy? So there goes the wine, there goes the cookies, there goes all of that, right? And so if we're honest in answering these 4 questions and going through our list, we end up with a small list of things that are actually accessible to us, that can be the creative stress reduction activities that we need to begin implementing to get out of fight or flight mode so we can start thinking more strategically. So again, just a reminder that this list is only a list, right? Unless you do something with it. So begin, with the items that you have left, you're going to circle the ones that are most exciting to you, and you're going to begin to take action.
And then what is the best way to practice this thing? Is this the thing that we can practice every day? Ask yourself these questions every day.
So, right, this is really what I would say is this is a repeatable system. So once you create this list and you have those items and you start exploring, you're going to find what works for you and you're going to find what doesn't. You're going to abandon what doesn't, but you will now have a tool belt of tools that you can constantly use. And so I definitely recommend making some of these these creative stress reduction activities habitual, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
I would encourage everyone who's listening to really get in touch with, okay, where am I getting most stressed and how often am I stressed? And so that'll help them figure out how often am I supposed to do this to get out of fight or flight mode. Because really the goal is to, when we're triggered, to get out of a triggered state.
When you say trigger, what does it mean? Trigger on what's gonna happen to you, badly or positive, or what does it mean?
So when I'm using the word triggered, I mean something that creates a response in you of stress, or creates a response in you of fear, or creates a response in you of whatever I would say more dark or negative state of mind that you might experience. So something that happens, whether it's every morning your boss makes a comment to you and it's just, you can't, right? It triggers you to feel stressed, right? So noting what those are and how often you're experiencing those. The one thing that I wanted to mention though is that, what I just taught today was, I believe, the foundation of stress management so that you can move beyond that. But it's not the end all be all. So, we all only have so many hours in the day. So if we did creative stress reduction every single time we were triggered without changing our stressors, without showing up, without taking control, that we have control of the things we have control over, we would not ever work. We would not have time to do anything else. And so one of the reasons that, that clients work with me is because once we get out of fight or flight mode, once we implement that creative stress reduction, we're really primed to create lasting change in our lives. But beyond that, it's the hard part. It's the hard work, right? How do we get rid of the stress that keeps triggering us or showing up for us over and over and over again? And so that's the real deep work. The real deep work is, once we're out of fight or flight mode, recognizing those triggers, recognizing those stressors that are showing up over and over and over again, so that we can pull them out by the roots. So we can say, okay, well, money is the big stressor for me, or my relationship, or my job, or the pressure of my job, or my to-do list, or whatever it is for you. We get to go in and work together to say, okay, these are my chronic stressors. These are the stressors that I have some sort of control over. And what can I change and what can I shift to address this shitty relationship with my boss, or to address my, the amount of work that I feel like I can't handle and I'm taking on, and what can we change to make sure that those things aren't causing us stress on a daily basis, so that when things like COVID-19 and a worldwide pandemic come around, we are better prepared. That's not the straw that breaks the camel's back. We are more resilient.
I'm thinking, like, can you tell me who will be your client? Doesn't need, for me, it doesn't need to be you only have stress for them to hire you. Do you have any group session? Do you have any one-on-one? So what are the services that you are offering?
Yes. So for everyone who's listening who feels, I would say who feels exhausted or who feels overworked, and yes, even stressed, what I would love to do is I'd love to offer each and every one of you the opportunity to apply to have a conversation with me. And so this conversation is really to help, first of all, help you figure out what those chronic stressors are that we can start changing, to create an action plan for you, and to talk about working together to see how I can support you. And I love that question that you asked, because really, Melissa, it depends on the individual. There is no one size fits all. But for me, I do a lot of my working through education and coaching. And so I have, I work with people privately. I also have a group program as well. And I have some other educational opportunities just like this. And so for those of you who want to have the conversation to figure out exactly what program would be a good fit, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to apply for that complimentary Stress Less Clarity session by visiting stresslesscode.com/apply.
Yeah, maybe you can put that on the comments later, that you can. And then do you have any free group that they can join and then follow what you do?
Yes. So actually, you can find us on Facebook at the Stress Less Community.
Mhm.
And I post a lot of trainings and fun stuff there. I also forgot to mention throughout today that I have a free download that has everything that I taught. So if you are panicking because you didn't write everything down or you didn't have a pen and pencil available, I have that download for you, and you
They
can
can-
click that to get that, and you'll automatically be added to get free tips and tools on a weekly basis from me as well.
Is that in your website? Probably. Is that in your website? They can get that link, or where do they get that link?
So you're going to look in the comments of
Okay.
today's live. Yep.
Okay. How are they going to connect with you? What's your contact number? What's your how email?
So I would say definitely reach out via my website at stresslesscode.com/apply. There's a form you can fill out, and you'll hear back from us within 48 hours.
That's awesome. Tell us one of your success stories with the things that you do.
Yes. So let's see. I'm immediately have a client that comes to mind. When she first came to me, so she's a lawyer, and when she first came to me, she had struggled for a long time. She had seen different therapists, psychiatrists, all sorts of different professionals, had been even hospitalized for mental health issues, and had all of these professionals on board for her, and on call for her to support her. And yet she still was struggling. She felt stuck. She felt like she was in a difficult relationship. She didn't know how to have a healthy relationship with folks. She was always taking on other people's problems. She wasn't taking care of her body. I mean, you name it. It was quite a struggle. And so as a result of working together, one of the first things we did was we implemented some creative stress reduction. And then from there, we really dug in what was causing her the most stress. And so one of those things were her relationships and the boundaries with them. And so we really dug into some different patterns and some different chronic stressors for her. And as a result, she has been able to step back and be more independent. She's been able to create a healthier relationships in her personal life and in her work life. She has gotten a promotion of a couple $1,000.
Yeah, yeah, I have.
And in her 20 years in her journey, she hasn't created results like this ever. And so she is an incredible success story, because not only does she get the results in her personal life, she's doing more self-care, she's exercising more, she's changed some of her unhealthy coping mechanisms. She's also created the financial results that come with it. And so it's great
I think
stuff.
the best thing for that is she discovered herself. I think that's the basics. She discovered herself, and like, wow, that is a powerful story. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then, what are the things that you can give a good referral, good tip from others to help us to grow?
So I would say definitely return back to creative stress reduction. Implement the learnings from today. So write that list, narrow it down by asking those 4 questions, and start exploring.
That's awesome. And then one thing is, like, what are the 3 good referrals for you?
Okay, so let's see. So I love working with business owners. I love working with CEOs in companies, and I absolutely love working with managers. So if you know of anyone in your life that, is in a leadership capacity, that has a lot of responsibilities, and they may be in the hustle mindset, they're going, and at the expense of their personal relationships or their health, that would be a really great referral for me. And not only for me, but for them, to support them in stepping out of stress and overwhelm.
Yeah, and probably you can be a speaker to any other organizations.
Oh, yes. Yes, I do a lot of professional speaking.
Yeah.
So I love to speak for professional organizations. I love to speak for women's organizations. Women have a special place in my heart, probably because I am one.
Yeah.
And Absolutely. And I love talking to big groups like that, because I think that's how we're going to shift the conversation around stress, and that's how we're going to really make the changes that we want, because quite frankly, we're in the middle of the first wave, I think.
Mhm.
But the second wave, the first wave being COVID-19, the second wave is the
Yes.
mental health wave. And we need to be spreading that message so that more people can step out of stress and find more peace during this time.
That is awesome. And is there any ending moment you can tell about our viewers?
Any last words?
Mhm. And
So oh, what was that?
go ahead.
Okay. I really love to just remind everyone that if you feel like you've tried everything, if you've tried what, everyone has recommended to you, if you feel really stuck, that you're not alone. That I've felt that way, that there's so many people that have felt that way. And just know that even though you may feel like you've tried everything, that there is so much more and the possibilities are infinite. So keep showing up, keep watching videos like this, and I promise you things will shift for you.
And then your client doesn't need to be man or woman. It can be both, right? And then
100%.
and also you can accept clients around the world. You are not only from Pennsylvania, right? So
Yes, so all of my work is virtual. I
Mhm.
do phone call and Zoom, so no need to worry about being in across the world or an hour away. It doesn't matter. I work with everyone.
That is awesome. It's really, really nice to talk to you. And you are business spotlight in my third business spotlight, because when I met you, is really you are inspiration and really spread positivity in the world, because you are really helping people to less stress, and it really shows in your skin. I always say that, oh my god, I have to have this less stress management for me to have a good skin. I'm really thankful for you and your expertise. And then probably you will the Carly is one of my attendees in my Coffee Connect, and this is one I let all the July attendees, I let them experience the platinum membership. And then September, she will be one of the speaker for the business lecture series. Stay tuned for that. I am still like trying to figure out who's going to be partner with you about do that, about doing this awesome uh showing the expertise of my Coffee Connect attendees, because my Coffee Connect attendees is my product. These are my product. I want to showcase them to the world. Like Coffee and Conversations is for me to promote them and showcase them to show their personality and not just business. So it's good to know you more about this. And when she said her story, I always like I'm almost kind of emotional, and she always have success stories, which is I that's why she is. I made sure that she is one of the first batch of my business spotlight, because she really really spread positivity in the world. Thank you so much, Carly. And then
Thank
see you
you.
next time. And my next guest tomorrow is Jenny O'Malley. Thank you and see you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Mhm.